Welcome to Staring Into the Abyss. I'm your host, Richard Gerlach. With me, as always, is Macro Patrick Hicks.
Hello.
Matt Brandenburg.
Oh my God, I'm back. Woo!
Vitlame Mist.
Hey.
And today we're going to be discussing our favorite reads, watches, things of the last year for our nice return of The Abyss.
I know, yeah. God, I can't believe it's been a month since we last sat down together and recorded.
It's been dude.
It's so crazy. I was looking back and I was like, man, I don't think I recorded since November.
Yeah, well, yeah, Matt, you went on like an extended hiatus.
I disappeared for a while.
I got to do the Matt schedule this year. I'll just come in like every 5 episodes or so.
Hey, now, I did more than I did less.
Matt does have a point.
That's true. I don't.
So I was here. Man. I just,
Matt was here. Mike was here. Vitlame joined our podcast last year.
Yeah.
Easily one of the biggest highlights for us for this show.
Oh,
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yes, it's been awesome.
You did not make things worse. For that.
You can make things worse.
That's our metric. Did it make things worse? No. Yeah. Okay, then it worked.
Gotta love those low expectations, guys.
We go real nice and smooth, you know.
Just if you expect disappointment, you can never be disappointed.
Oh. Wait.
First of the year. That's going to be the motto.
Yeah.
What was that from?
Spider-Man.
That's
No Way
right.
Home. I haven't seen that yet.
What?
No spoilers. I haven't seen it.
Well,
what?
I tried to see it, and it was like super booked. So I saw Nightmare Alley instead.
Oh, I want to see that.
Which was actually really good. And now in Massachusetts, Omicron is like fucking up everything. So I have to avoid places like the plague right now.
Yeah, it's the same here. Like there are in Iceland now, there are 20,000 people either in isolation or in quarantine.
Yeah, unfortunately,
there have been like 1,000 cases each day, which is really, really a lot. You know, compared to that, where there are only 350,000 people here.
Yeah. Well, in my area of Michigan, we've got the kids going back to school full time. They are not shutting down. My work is trying to pretend the whole everything is normal, nothing is happening, nothing to see here. So the kids started back to school this past Monday. It took them 4 days to send out an email notification to say, oh, yeah, by the way, we've got positive cases now. And then we got another email yesterday saying, oh, well, now we're up to 10 positive cases, but we're still not going online. So,
oh, my God.
We didn't hit our 10% threshold for the district. So all the kids need to come in here. And then this morning I see a nice little news report that children who contract the coronavirus are at an increased risk for diabetes 1 and 2.
Oh, my gosh.
Yay.
So this is fun, you know, on top of the long-term side effects of like heart damage, lung damage, neurological issues, brain damage. We now get to toss old fucking diabetes into the mix.
Diabetes.
And still people think this is just a flu.
Everything's normal. Hey, the flu kills like 30,000 people a year. So
I know.
Small potatoes compared to the millions dead.
That's right. I recently rewatched Speed, and that you just made me think of that scene. So they're on the bus.
I watched Speed too, Matt.
Did you? So what he's talking about makes me think of the part where Keanu Reeves punches a hole in the gas tank, and they're like, "Well, you didn't want to make it tough enough, or it wasn't tough enough already." That's a good analogy for life right now.
Yep.
Shoot the hostage.
Yeah, there's a Dennis Hopper figure with missing finger cackling in a room somewhere. It could be him.
I had winter break from my work. And from the 1 week I had off of work, the hospital had over 200 COVID cases. And the entire hospital is now bubbles. I have to get tested twice a week for work. And so many staff are out sick or quit because of burnout that they had to call the National Guard in to be hospital employees.
That sounds like fun.
I think our next level is we're just going to have to wear like those bubble suits.
We're all gonna be bubble boys.
Yeah, we're all going to have to become bubble
that movie. Boy with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, we're all Jake
Oh yeah,
Gyllenhaal.
Bubble Boy.
I never saw that. I was thinking of the Seinfeld episode with the bubble boy.
With the meeps or
the moops. Who are the moops? It's Moors, you idiot. Oh no, so sorry. The card says moops.
Oh
Who
man,
are the moops?
2022 right there.
I think we should get started. I know Matt said he recently saw Speed, which
It only took you 30 years.
Let me tell you, have you guys seen this amazing movie about a bus?
That Keanu Reeves is going places.
That can't go under 50 miles an hour or it blows up. And the entire dialogue is just quips.
And in the end, they blow up this bus in an airport.
I was going to say, I just finished the new Dexter season this morning.
Oh, that's good.
Is it worth a return?
I think yes, but like I feel like I'm in the minority because a lot of people are hating on this finale, but I liked it better than the original finale. So maybe I'm in the minority, but it feels like it was more thematically fitting to the character. Because does anyone see the original Dexter series?
Nope.
I haven't finished it.
I dropped out of it after like season 2 or 3. There was something tonally off between me and that show. It's
good for the first 4 seasons, and then the showrunner quit.
Okay.
And after that happened, the show has like this weird quality dip and quality increase and quality dip and quality increase. And
they added a dog that could talk. It was weird.
And then the ending was just terrible.
Wait, what? Is that for real, Matt, or are you just fucking around?
Yeah, totally real.
So it becomes the son of Sam. That's what Matt's trying to say.
Not even. It just becomes this crazy dog that busts out these funny phrases from the 80s all the time.
So what I will say new season is
what you looking at, Dexter? What you talking about?
I don't want to spoil too many
How
people,
rude.
but I will say the new season takes place 10 years after the show ended. And it's following Dexter as he's been living in upstate New York under a fake identity, trying to like just get by and not get caught with all the murdering that he did down in Miami.
That sounds like Joe from You.
Does he get pulled back in?
He does.
Does he have to murder again?
Out.
Well, if you've seen Dexter, you know he likes murder. Dexter likes to kill people. Yeah. And he's been trying to hide it for 10 years because he just doesn't want to get caught. But he feels these urges creeping back up. And he finds someone who kind of fits that weird code that he has. And he acts on it. And as he does this, his son has tracked him down. And his son's now like a teenager who's super fucked up. And Dexter's like trying to like come to terms with like what he did in leaving his son, plus all his murders, plus there's a serial killer that's been killing in this town for the last 23 years, and Dexter's on his path. Ooh. And it kind of takes up from there. The best part of this show is Michael C. Hall's return, because I always forget how great of an actor Michael C. Hall is until I watch him, and I'm like, oh, he's really fucking good.
Does he say evil dies tonight?
He does not say evil dies tonight. So my apologies about that. But guess who plays the villain?
Michael Myers.
Dennis Hopper.
Dennis Hopper. The talking dog.
Clancy Brown plays the villain, Mr. Krabs.
Oh, nice. I love it.
All
right, that's good.
Honestly, I liked it a lot. It could have been better. A lot of people hate the finale, but I thought it was a good fitting end to the character. I won't get into spoilers because I'm being nice, but overall, like, it's worth a check out. It's not my favorite show of the year, but it's pretty up there for me.
Well, that's good. I know it's hard for these series to come back and recapture what made them special to begin with and serve the fans well. I think like X-Files came back for 2 seasons that were pretty much universally reviled from what I remember.
Man, they did 2 seasons of that?
They did a season 10 and 11, and this is a show that should have quit at the end of season 8.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then dragged out for another season because of contractual obligations, and then decided that they had to do 2 more years later. Like,
Jeez.
Oof, the
But
cringe.
here's some Twitter takes for the new finale. Are you ready?
oh yeah,
It's,
this is like a new feature for our show then. Twitter
This-
takes.
I love the finale.
Tweet,
All my
Twitter
questions
takes.
answered. The next one. That Dexter New Blood finale was ass. Now the other finale wasn't bad to me. Then there's the Dexter New Blood finale. Boo! Tomato emojis.
Like,
Oh, perfect.
he
Boo,
thought
hiss.
tomato. Yeah, but the tomato emojis. I mean, that was
They're
just
throwing
making me hungry.
tomatoes at the screen.
Yeah. I was thinking it was like a Rotten Tomato thing.
I guess. Yeah.
Or like old-timey throwing tomatoes.
Although
I think it's
Rotten
old-timey throwing
Tomatoes,
tomatoes.
on Rotten Tomatoes, the whole tomato means it's good, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's fresh.
Yeah.
They went the whole tomato.
So they should have probably, if they were trying to do that Rotten Tomato thing, gone with like a splatter emoji.
Yeah.
I found the best one. Are you ready? Me after the Dexter New Blood season finale. And then they have a screenshot of them canceling their Showtime subscription.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh dear.
But I will say, I thought it was actually quite good. Maybe I'm in the minority, but I liked it a lot.
Okay.
But what about you guys? Mike?
What are we doing?
Just
This isn't the year-end thing yet, right?
Ended, and then we'll get into our year-end favorites.
Yeah.
Okay, so
just,
this was not your thing of the year. This is just a recent thing.
Yeah, recent things.
Okay. Well, recent thing, I read a new anthology that came out from Eric Raglin. The anthology is Antifa Splatterpunk,
Nice.
Nice.
which just released a couple days ago at the time of this recording. January 6th, it released to, I guess, mark the 1-year anniversary of Donald Trump's failed fascist attempt to overthrow our government.
God, that was a year ago.
That was a year ago, and
Yeah.
Eric Raglin has now done more than anybody in our government to hold these people accountable by releasing Antifa, or is it Antifa or Antifa? What do you guys
I
I'd
say
say
say?
Antifa.
Antifa? Okay. We'll go with Antifa.
Antifa.
Antifa. Antifa.
Antifa.
Antifa.
You gotta
Not to
put
be
the
confused with Ant Flo. So, this anthology, like I said, it does more than the Senate House Committee to investigate January 6th by giving us stories of fascists getting exactly what they deserve in gloriously bloody and grotesque ways. It starts off with Gordon B. White's story, One of the Good Ones, or It's a Gas, which is a nice little story taking a look at the idea of cops and bad apples and good apples in the police force. And it's about what happens when these SWAT officers come across some old Vietnam-era mustard gas and a black guy they've abducted off the street to interrogate and test this mustard gas on. It starts off like every scene opens with the kind of like a punchline of a cop walks into a bar joke setup. But it ends up being a very, very serious story. And then we get I think the one thing that I really like most about this anthology is the way it kind of balances the tones from one story. You don't really get like one heavy hitting piece right after another. You get these nice little balances between a serious story and something that's a bit more comical or outlandish, and then something that's a bit more heavyweight. So after Gordon B. White, we get Keith Rawson's The Book of Vails, which this story is just fucking badass. It is about this strange guy that goes to I don't want to say like a trade show, but you know when they do like the gun and ammo shows.
Mm-hmm. I am. Funny that
you
I'm
probably
like,
don't have those in Iceland.
No, I was gonna say, I was like, it's funny that I'm like, I know this, and then I was like, I don't have this here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, quite all the time.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So this one is a strange guy shows up at this. He goes to the booth that's attended by the white supremacist, and he's looking for a book called the Book of Vails, which is this very supposedly secretive tome of magic. And the white supremacist won't sell it to him, but he knows somebody who does have it, and eventually the stranger just kind of keeps badgering him for this Book of Vails and tracks him down and is following and is clearly very, very creepy until the supremacist caves and is able to secure him a copy of the book. And from there, it turns into a very nice, bloody and goopy body horror story that ends in the middle of a Portland protest. One of my favorites, I think there's 16 stories in this, and hands down, my absolute favorite piece in this was Anna E. Robick's The Chad Show, which is a massive skewering of Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity and those type of deplorable Fox News hosts. And our very definitely not at all Tucker Carlson host Chad begins assaulting himself on live TV and blaming liberals and saying that this is what is going to happen when liberals take over. And he escalates from there and mutilates himself on live TV. And it's completely over the top. I mean, this guy like cuts off his balls. He pulls out his intestines, all the while blaming liberals, that liberals are doing this to him.
That's awesome.
And this whole mutilation, this act of rigorous self-inflicted violence plays against the musical backdrop of Your Body is a Wonderland.
Amazing.
This story, it's short. It's incredibly grotesque and absolutely perfect.
That sounds amazing.
Yes, it does.
That's kind of the taste of what you can expect across these stories from Antifa Splatterpunk, or Antifa Splatterpunk, however you want to pronounce it.
Or Anifta.
Anifta? You're forgetting about the T.
The T is silent. No, there's Anift.
Yeah, but it's a T-I.
Oh, an F-T-A.
No.
Antifa,
no.
Antifa.
No.
No. Antifa.
And Ifa.
At this point, you're probably just going to let Google do it, you know?
Yeah. Go ahead, Google it. I'm sure dictionary.com can give you like the sound clip of somebody pronouncing it.
Oh, yeah. It's some crazy person. Antifa.
For me, like, reading this in the build up to January 6th and the government's absolute do nothing about this attempted coup.
Mike, they didn't do nothing. Did you see what Pelosi did on the 6th?
You got Hamilton.
Yeah, they got the Hamilton cast to sing a song about it.
Yes, that's much better than prison time for Trump.
Oh.
That is so much. Yeah, that's exactly what we need.
They got to appeal to the youth.
So they're taking this whole doing a song and dance bullshit literally.
Yeah.
Like that's literally all they can be bothered to do is have the cast of Hamilton perform a song.
See, don't look behind the...
How much money did Lin-Manuel Miranda get for that?
Oh, gosh, he's just...
Lin-Manuel Miranda has had the fucking year of his life if it comes to making money.
Yeah.
He had like 3 movies that he helped co-write and do songs for, including like Disney movies. Like he's good.
Well, yeah. Well, he just raked it in. He's just like, whatever, just give me money.
Well, hopefully it'll show up on Disney Plus soon. We'll see what happens.
It will. The whole series behind the scenes for like 5 minutes of them dancing and singing.
So reading this book in the midst of an ongoing plague and a year into this attempted fascist overthrow of our government, It was some much needed catharsis for me.
Yeah, it seems
and a solid reminder that once again, the only good fascist is a dead fascist.
Yes.
Yep.
Agree.
Over to you, Matt.
Oh, well, mine won't be as serious. No, it feels like it's been a while. I'm going to bust out two real quick. First one is Cliff Taylor's The Memory of Souls. So this is not any horror thing. This is actually Shane Hawk had kind of called this book out a while back, and then a couple other people were like, oh, you got to check this out. And it's just really cool. Oh, man, it's kind of I think it's basically a true story. I mean, there's some fantastical elements. Fantastical. There we go. Them's the words. Fantasticals.
Fantasticals? That's not, I wouldn't go there. That is a paid site, I'm sure. Somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, and if you want to go, just give me $5 and I'll hook you up.
All right, well, there you go. Send Matt $5 and he'll send you a picture of his balls.
I didn't say they were mine.
That should help with our podcasting host fees.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Cliff. Great, like, kind of just study on finding yourself in your 20s. He is, and if you are listening to this, I'm going to apologize. As you can hear, I cannot pronounce words. So it's I think it's the Ponca tribe. He's a member of that tribe, and the whole kind of concept is he wants to help bring kind of the traditions back. From what it sounds like in the book, and even kind of the tribe had kind of, I don't want to say lost its way, but lost a lot of its traditions, and so he's going around and he's meeting other tribes and sitting with them and learning their traditions to help kind of bring it back to his tribe. And it's just this, like, it will touch you and you'll be like, I mean, there's parts just, and it's just this story just about him, he's in his 20s throughout this whole thing, and he's talking about like, he was on a Sundance circuit, so they would go and, they would do these Sundances and stuff. And so he was on that, but he was also learning about what they call the little people, and he kind of gives us an idea. Those are similar to, like, say, for the Irish leprechauns and stuff like that. There's these little people that kind of help out. And for a lot of these indigenous tribes, the little people usually are kind of give them foresight into the future and or their connection to the past. So it's really moving. It's a very thin book. It's like 90 pages. But I finished it, beginning of this week, and it's really moving. It's definitely going to be, I think it's something a lot of people should read. Anyway, the big one I want to talk about is Vasterian's newest issue, Volume 4, Issue 2. God, these just get better and better. John is amazing and at what stories he picks and what essays and poems and the images in this. They're just Greg Sisko. He has got an amazing story in here on Borrowed Time. I'm looking through. Hallie Piper has another one in Pleasant State of Being, which is just amazing story. There's a lot. I feel like this has the most stories. It feels like every issue gets a little bit bigger, and this one probably has the most in it so far. And I'm looking through just to remember some of these ones that just came out that were just so good. Kurt Favre, his last story, This Story Will Kill You, is this awesome, like, meta kind of story where a character can hear the narrator and realizes that they've been in this story before, and the narrator's like, well, yeah, you're in this story because we're going to kill you, and we'll introduce some side characters, but those side characters are just going to die to keep you going and all this stuff. And it's just like, and then by the end of it, you get to this point where they're like, well, now you as the reader, you're next. Somebody's going to read this story and you're going to wake up in this world. And yeah, it's just awesome. This is such a good journal again and again and again. So yeah, I think this is top tier. You need to subscribe if you're not, and you need to read it.
Yeah, Vasterian's worth a subscription.
Yes.
That Favre story sounds like a fun bit of meta.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. It's the last story in the book, or in the journal, and so it's like a perfect ending. Just because the last paragraph is just like the next time somebody reads this, you're gonna die, and so you're like, oh crap. so good one there.
And Vitlame, what about you?
Well, I finished season 2 of The Witcher.
Nice.
And I really, really, really like it. Almost makes me want to read the books, but I'm still not quite there yet. Because it's just the volumes. There are too many of them.
I was gonna say there's like a ton.
I know there's so many of them.
Have you played The Witcher 3 yet?
I have not played it yet, but after watching season 2, I want to play Witcher 3.
Witcher 3 is amazing.
I've heard nothing but great things about it. And I used to watch just a little snippets of my husband playing it, so I'm like, yeah, I might do this. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait for season 3 of that. And it was so funny because, like I said, I'm just watching the series. I haven't read the books or played the games. So at the end episode of season 2, the big reveal, I was shocked. And my husband was like, ha, I knew this. And I'm like, what? How? And he's like, through the game. And I'm like, damn it. So I was basically the only one who was like, and then afterwards, like, what happened? And then he's like, yeah, I knew this from the start. and he kept a bigger poker face than ever. He didn't blink or like didn't show any signs at all that he knew this. So I was completely in the dark when it happened.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And I actually just yesterday I finished watching Antlers.
Oh yeah.
I've been waiting 2 years for this movie.
No, it just came out on disc here.
Yeah, and it's on Disney Plus actually.
Well, in your world, yeah.
Yeah. In my region.
In Iceland.
So yeah,
fuck, you get everything on Disney Plus. We get like Mickey Mouse Club, new season, yippee! Fuck off.
Hey man, that Beatles documentary is pretty rad though.
True.
Which one?
The Beatles documentary.
Oh, was that on there?
Yeah.
I don't like the Beatles, so I don't care.
Yeah, I didn't watch it either.
Rolling Stones are better.
We watched it yesterday, and it did not live up to my expectations. Because, after seeing the trailer, I was super hyped. I had like a vague feeling what it was going to be about. But, watching it, it didn't blow my mind away. It was good. I mean, they had some pretty horrific, like graphic corpse scenes. It was like really graphic, even though it was just animal corpses, and then they moved up to human corpses, and I'm like, whoa, they really went to town on making these corpses. So kudos for that. That made me uncomfortable. But the cinematography was really good, like how they shot everything. They kind of created a really good mood. Like really, it happens in a rural town in Oregon, and you can kind of feel that it feels like that, but not enough. I felt like it needed to show a little bit more that this was a kind of a mine town, but it didn't have as much elements about it. Like they had an unused mine and it wasn't used anymore. And I felt like, yeah, you should probably show, the people who are living in this town suffer from it, because they need jobs and stuff. But they kind of showed it with, the main, the boy's family. They were dealing with drugs. They were making methamphetamine. Due to them losing their jobs at the mines, I think it was kind of implied, but it wasn't really, overtly explained. But the child actor was amazing. I really loved him, and just seeing him dealing with this was like, it hurt a lot, and especially when he was doing he went through examination. You saw how he was just basically a bag of bones.
Oh jeez.
That kid was so malnourished, and I was like, please give him some food.
Have you read the short story it's based on, Vitlame?
Is it based on something? I mean, I know it's based on Wendigo.
It's based on a short story called The Quiet Boy by Nick Ancosta.
Oh, really?
You can read it for free online, but you did an episode about it back when we were waiting for the movie to come out.
Yeah, so like 2 years ago, we talked about this story with Bloodshot Books publisher Pete Cale.
Yeah, it was like episode 5.
I had no idea. Okay,
Yeah, this is going back in the way back machine. It's a fantastic short story, by the way.
Okay, I need to read that one. I'm probably going to read it tonight. But it's the one who plays in it, the actress who used to play in Felicity.
Yes.
She was also good, but I felt like they needed to expand her character a little bit more. I mean, you got hints of what happened to her as a child, and you saw hints also that she was still struggling with it as an adult. But you couldn't really get this kind of tension between her and her brother. In the movie, she's forced to move back to this old town from California to Oregon, and she has kind of like she's living with her brother because her dad just died and her mother died their mother died when they were 12 or something like that. And you don't really get this kind of tension. You kind of feel it is, but it's not as much, and it's not really explored enough, in my opinion. I felt like if you had a little bit more of that, their interaction, like this tense interaction between those two, you would have cared a lot more about them. But the depiction of the Wendigo was really good. But at the same time, I still had this kind of nagging feeling in my head, like, did they ask permission from the natives to make this?
Yeah.
Because because this is a really touchy subject among the natives. They don't even speak about this creature in fear that it might, grab hold of them and possess them and stuff. So I was like, hopefully they got permission.
Yeah.
because otherwise it's just another white guy exploiting natives, and that's not a good thing.
No, not at all.
But there was like a native person in there, and he was explaining the myth and everything. So I guess in their mind that might be like their part of it. You know what I mean? But still didn't feel a lot. So as much as I loved the depiction and how they created the Wendigo and everything, but at the same time, I'm like, oh crap! I really hope they got and I really hope you will donate some of the stuff to the natives after this.
Yeah.
But yeah, the last third part, I can't say that it dragged, but it could have been built up a lot more. And you kind of got this kind of aliens feeling, with Ripley going up against the alien queen.
Interesting.
In the last part, but at the same time, it felt a little bit anticlimactic at the same time.
Yeah.
You were kind of like sitting there, and you're like, no, I want more. Give me more. This is way too short. I think the battle ended within 20 seconds.
Oh wow.
Oh geez. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not good.
So yeah, like I said, it had a lot of potential and it had a lot of room for improvement. But I mean, I have no idea why they didn't. Was it because of COVID or something, or was it like the production issues that they delayed it to 2 years?
I think it was due to COVID.
It was supposed to come out when the pandemic kicked in, so they pushed it back, and then they just kept on pushing it back.
Because if it was because of that, I feel like they could have used those 2 years to make it better.
I think some of it stemmed to, in addition to COVID, I think, if I remember correctly, it was a Fox movie, 21st Century Fox. So then the merger with Disney happened, and there were contractual obligations that it had to have a theatrical release.
Yep.
I see.
But since it was kind of like an orphan film, Disney had to put it out, and then they just kind of, I don't know why they didn't just dump it to begin with, but they kind of pulled like a New Mutants rescheduling shuffle where it's like, okay, we have to have a theatrical release. I guess we have to give it like a prime release day of some kind. We can't just fuck it off wherever.
It sounds to me like The Empty Man. The same thing happened with that.
Exact same thing.
The Empty Man was actually really fucking good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Empty Man.
Okay. Well, I still want to check out Antlers. I'll give it a go.
Yeah. I definitely. I mean, I recommend people checking it out because we've been waiting so long to see it.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's not really bad. It's not as bad as the first season of what's right now on Netflix called The Manifest. I think it's a sci-fi
I've
original.
heard of that one.
No, it's basically about there's a crew of people that went up in the air from Jamaica to I can't remember, was it LA or New York? It doesn't matter. And they kind of have this kind of turbulence, and then when they finally land, they're like, "Oh, you've been gone for 5 years."
Oh, I think I heard about that.
Yeah, and then everyone developed this kind of psychic powers, and it's so fucking bad, guys. It's so bad. I survived the first episode, and I'm like, if I watch another episode, I might kill myself.
We don't want that to happen.
No,
I'm starting to see these tropes of Avengers Endgame and now Manifest, where people have disappeared for 5 years, and all I can think is, God, you're fucking lucky. Can you imagine not having to live through the last 5 years? How fucking glorious would that be?
Until you wake up and you're like, so how'd it go? And you're like, well, so yeah. You missed a bit.
I mean, at least that part is kind of well, at least I didn't have to live through that,
Right?
You just got to completely wipe out the entire Trump presidency, a couple years of the plague.
Yeah, but the series starts with this narration that is so bad.
Is it better or worse than the Blade Runner narration that was forced upon the studio?
It's worse.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. That's not good.
It's the worst. It's just the minute I heard it, or the second I heard it, I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be bad. and then I watched it, and I tried to hold my tongue the entire time, but in the end I just couldn't, and I was like, it's so bad. No, I can't. This is horrible.
It's not a good sign in general when any movie or TV production begins with a descriptive narration of what has happened.
Yep.
It's almost as bad as when you begin a show or movie in media res.
And it's so funny.
You mean you didn't like every other episode of Alias starting 2 hours later?
I've never seen Alias.
It was a really good show, actually, but the media res would kill you.
I fucking hate in media res so much.
Every episode starts at the end, and then it does the title, and it's 51 hours ago.
I won't name names, but when I was writing short stories a couple years ago, I had a beta reader, and every story I sent this beta reader, they were like, you should begin the story at the climax and then move back to gain reader interest.
No.
I was like, fuck you. I am not doing it.
That sounds like somebody who has no fucking clue what they're doing.
Or has zero patience.
You might be right.
Yeah, or they don't trust their story. I always think of Rick and Morty. There's one of those episodes, and they were talking about somebody had to read a script, and they're like, well, when you start out showing a putting us and then saying 2 weeks later, why don't you just start those 2 weeks earlier or whatever and go from there? And it's just oh man, media res. It's something. Gosh.
So
media res so much.
It's almost as bad as we watched. Sorry. I'll just real quick. We watched Prisoners of Ghostland and talking about knowing you're in for a treat. It's when they had 7 production company title cards before the movie even starts. It's probably not good.
God.
That's a good sign when you have 7 producers, 7 screenwriters, 2 directors,
it's bad.
19 editors.
Yeah.
I tried to watch that movie because I love Nicolas Cage and I love Sion Sono. Sion Sono is one of my favorite Japanese directors. And I was like, oh, I'm in for a treat. I fell asleep 20 minutes into that movie.
Yeah, that's about right.
I could not finish it. It's not good. But why don't we focus on things that are good today?
All right. I think
Yeah, I
we
guess
can
we
do
can
that.
do that. It's kind of like
Focus
a new
on
leaf
some
for
pilots.
us.
I think we can give like either like let's be like a top 10 for each of us, but just like some things we saw this last year, read this last year that we really liked, and we recommend other people check out.
Yeah, I can't do a 10, by the way. I'm out.
One movie that I talked about it earlier, but one movie I highly recommend people check out is Nightmare Alley.
Nice.
It's not fully a horror movie. It is a Guillermo del Toro movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's more of a noir than it is anything else. It's about this person played by Bradley Cooper, who gives a fucking great performance, by the way. Everyone in this movie, great performances, especially Richard Jenkins. And he plays this person who, in the beginning of the movie, we see him hiding a body in a house and burning the house down, and then running away onto a train and finding a carnival and joining the carnival as a carny. Like, that's how the movie begins. And as he is learning the carny life, he gets interested in the idea of being a mentalist. And we see him kind of hone his craft to be a mentalist and some horrible things he does in order to replace the mentalists they have in the carnival. And we follow him as he becomes this famous mentalist, and how also he becomes consumed by greed and getting even like better and even like bigger than he is. Wonderful performances. One thing I really like is, do you guys know what a geek is? Like the old carny term geek?
Yes.
So they actually go into how they got geeks, which a lot of people don't talk about, and it's really fucked up, but it really worked for this movie. Is because pretty much what a geek is it'd be part of a freak show, and it'd have this person they'd call a geek or a beast man, and they'd throw a chicken down, and they'd have this person eat the chicken raw in front of everybody.
Oh, God.
And what it was is they would actually find drug addicts or alcoholics and give them drugs or booze and take them in the carnival as a geek. And that person would do that job, and their payment will be drugs or booze. And they'd keep that person until they eventually died, and they'd find someone else to replace them.
Jesus, what a shitty way to live with salmonella poisoning every day. Here's some heroin. Go shit yourself in the corner.
It's the greatest show.
The movie gets into like a lot of that aspects, how predatory carnivals are. And then it gets into a lot of like Bradley Cooper's character and his greed and his drive to become successful, and how this kind of goes bad. Eventually, he becomes this mentalist in Chicago, and he teams up with a therapist to rip off rich men who've done lots of bad things. Nice. And it kind of goes wrong from there. It's not Del Toro's best movie, but it's definitely like a really solid Del Toro movie with some fantastic performances. I would highly recommend it. Also, you get Ron Perlman playing a strong man. So,
awesome. I mean, anytime you have a Guillermo del Toro movie with Ron Perlman, I think you're good.
Yeah. And Dafoe's in it too.
Willem Dafoe's in it too?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. All right. I'm down. I already wanted to see it. I had no idea who was in it, but yeah, I'm in.
It's really good. So that's one of my first recommendations is Nightmare Alley. Highly recommend checking it out. Plus, it's worth seeing just because, like, I know we geek out over Marvel movies. I know, like, we talk about Marvel all the time, and Marvel's fun. But it's really
well, scratch my top.
Yeah, I was just going to go into some of that.
But I was also say it's really nice to see, like, a studio movie that isn't, like, an already proven superhero IP.
Yeah. No,
action blockbuster IP.
I
It's something
with that entirely. I have been, as much as I fucking love the MCU, there have been times it's like, okay, I just want to sit down and watch like an actual adult movie that is aimed toward a mature audience, you know, like I am itching to rewatch The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I want to watch some horror movies. I want to see something that isn't this usual MCU kind of template. For as much as I love those flicks, it was really a breath of fresh air for me to sit down and be able to watch the new Bond movie after kind of going through MCU stuff for a while, or we watched the Matrix series before getting into Matrix Resurrections. It was just, even though those movies are kind of superhero template to begin with, it was just some general adult audience fare for people that are over 18.
The Matrix is more original when it first came out, though.
Oh, yeah, completely. The first time around when that debuted, like the tail end of the 90s. And it's funny rewatching the first one 25 years removed. It's like, wow, this is like the epitome of a 90s movie. You know, you've got the goth trench coat look. You've got the slow motion cameras, the bullet time that became a staple of every fucking Hollywood movie that followed it. It was like,
watched that last night
for every 90s movie that came. It's like, okay, they had a big success with this. Let's roll out Blade and do an actual comic book movie. So here's Blade with a trench coat and slow motion fights.
Wait, didn't Blade come out first?
Blade came first. Yeah.
Did it come first?
Yeah, Matrix was 99.
When did Blade come out? Was that 97?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so then it was very much kind of like that typical 90s model.
Yes.
I think it was just every movie in the 90s came out of that way.
Yeah. Well, and you could argue Matrix, how it was original, but it copied from a lot of other things too. So.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's got that kung fu pastiche in there. It's got comic book pastiche in there.
Yeah.
The cyberpunk aesthetics of the 90s. You know, you had Sandra Bullock's The Net. You had Hackers, right? Like, it's very much in that kind of mold. It's like, it's a synthesis of the entire 90s decade. The only thing that's missing from The Matrix is Chandler Bling from Friends.
You know what The Matrix needed?
Did I have a red pill?
The Matrix really needed Billy Zane.
Could this pill be any more blue?
All right, but Mike, what's your first thing?
So we were talking a bit about the MCU, and although they did put out some good quality movies, especially ending the year on a fantastic high note for me with Hawkeye and Spider-Man No Way Home, what I think most set, because I am a comic geek, what really defined 2021 for me was, for the first time ever, DCU put out two movies that were actually worth a fuck.
The Suicide Squad and Justice League Snyder Cut?
Yes, indeed. The high point of the year, and I bought Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League on disc, and it's a movie that I have returned to multiple times and seen it on HBO Max. It's fucking fantastic.
So funny. I still have yet to see it.
It's really, really fucking good.
Take it from someone who doesn't like Zack Snyder movies that much. It's really fucking good.
It's great. It is. And I mean, yes, it's a comic book movie, but I mean, even more than that, it is a massive 4-hour epic fantasy flick. It's Lord of the Rings with DC heroes instead of hobbits and elves and whatever the fuck else is in there.
Orcs? Humans?
Dwarves?
I don't know. Your fantasy shit. Whatever. You got Batman and Superman. That's all you need. And I
would agree with both those movies being like really high quality to check out for end of the year too.
Yes. I mean, especially going to the Snyder Cut. Years removed from when it was originally meant to be released in 2017, we finally got this released in 2021. And having sat through it now probably 5 or 6 times, like that's how much I've kind of become fucking obsessed with this movie.
Holy crap, that's crazy.
I know. I will never understand.
5 times?
Well, in bits and pieces. I put it on, I watch it for a little while.
Okay, I guess
over
that's
Christmas
fair.
break, I used my bonus. I got some new surround sound speakers that I hooked up, and Justice League was my demo disc. I went in there when I forget the bad guy's name, like Darkseid's acolyte invades the Amazonians to get the box. Like that battle scene. That battle scene is fucking brilliant. and the sound quality was amazing. So that's become kind of a demo disc for me, and it's just something that I'll put on every now and then because it's like, you know what? I really want to watch Jeremy Irons teach Wonder Woman how to properly make tea. Like, that's fucking great. I want to see Jeremy Irons throw all this snark at Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne and Batman and give him shit for hours on end. Like, I want a whole movie of just Jeremy Irons giving Batman shit for 2 or 3 hours. Like,
oh my goodness.
And watching it, I will never, ever, ever understand how Warner Brother executives could have watched this movie and ultimately decided, you know what? This really needs to be a 90-minute comedy instead. We need to get Joss Whedon to come in here and harass our crew, try to end Gal Gadot's career, make Ben Affleck an alcoholic. Well, this is what we need for our Justice League movie. Get that in here.
I was just going to say, I mean, they wanted to pull on Joss Whedon. And what do you expect?
And the auspices, I mean, just from... I know there's business aspects and there's Hollywood bullshit behind this, but the basic human morality behind what Warner Brothers did, like they used Zack Snyder's daughter's suicide as an excuse to kick him off the production and turn it into a 90-minute comedy. That's what they wanted it to be. And I think that's just absolutely disgusting, and it did an incredible disservice to this movie, to the DCU films at large. And the things that Whedon did behind the scenes were absolutely atrocious and should not ever be tolerated. And the Snyder Cut, for me, erases completely the 2017 Whedon Cut from memory. This is the Justice League that we should have gotten to begin with.
Yeah. It's a really great film.
It is. And likewise, the Suicide Squad. James Gunn came in and revamped that movie. You had the original Suicide Squad that came out some years ago by David Ayers, which fucking sucked. Largely, presumably, again, because of Warner Brothers studio interference. Zack Snyder came in James Gunn came in and had full creative control and produced a hilariously wild and violent movie that was fantastic. I fucking loved this one. It
was so fun.
It was such a blast. It's a superhero flick that turns into a kaiju movie. I mean, how do you not love that?
It's also really fucking brutal, too.
It is.
That's like one of the goriest movies I think I've seen all year.
I mean, the movie begins with like a 20-minute exercise in killing all of these other superheroes to bring in this other squad of losers.
They did Captain Boomerang dirty.
Yeah, but I mean, you got Idris Elba, so we'll take it.
Yes, we need more of him. That guy is so awesome.
Oh, he's great.
Idris Elba is going to be Knuckles in the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
I am so stoked. I cannot wait.
You're kidding.
Knuckles in the new Sonic movie.
My God.
It's gonna be so awesome. Oh man, that first movie I love, and I'm on board.
I wasn't even that hyped about that movie, but now I am.
Oh, it's gonna be great. You definitely. I'm so excited.
Oh shit! Oh my God! I can't. He is gonna be a much better Knuckles than fucking Chris Pratt as Mario.
Yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of a given, isn't it? I mean,
yes.
Alba and Chris Pratt are not even on the same level at all.
Not on the same league.
They're not even on the same floor.
No.
Oh my gosh.
They're not even in the same fucking hotel.
No. Chris Pratt is a bottom feeder.
Oh my God.
I would agree. The Suicide Squad was a highlight of the year for me too, Mike. It's so much fun. Like I was smiling the entire time I was watching it.
Oh, it's so much fucking fun. Yeah. I haven't revisited since I watched it originally when it came out on HBO Max, but I've got the disc on order. I'm waiting for it to arrive, and I am looking forward to giving that another run.
It's back on Max now too.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're getting ready for that show, Peacemaker show.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that starts.
13th.
Yeah, that starts this week, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. So that'll be fun.
For me, one of the best things of COVID was HBO Max movie premieres. It meant I finally got to be able to watch movies that are new.
Yeah.
That was nice.
That was cool.
Just being able to stay at home and watch these new release movies.
Yes.
Big fan of that.
Like Dune. Dune was another fucking phenomenal movie.
Yes.
I had
Dune was so
absolute.
good.
I've seen it in IMAX. I had to see Dune in IMAX.
Yeah, see, I was great with it at home. I'm waiting. The disc comes out on Tuesday. I'm waiting for that to come. It's going to be a good week of repeat viewings, I think, for me.
I think so, too. But Matt, what would you recommend for something that you watched this year that our audience should check out?
Do you want me to do watch, or I can do anything?
Let's do watch first, and then we can go on to a couple book recommendations. I have like
right.
3-4 books lined up that I can recommend quickly to our listeners as well.
I'm going to go 2 routes for this because that's just what I do, apparently. First, since we're talking about comic book movies, I will say the Marvel shows, for the most part, have been amazing and a great in-between. I mean, WandaVision was a great start of what the shows could be. I thought that was amazing what they did. And even though some people didn't understand what was happening at first, I think by the end people dug it. And then, I mean, all the way through Hawkeye, I thought Hawkeye was just our perfect buddy cop 90s, 80s kind of adventure thing. I liked, so I liked all of those. I thought that was a great thing to do this year. And Shang-Chi came out. That was really cool. Mm-hmm. And then Spider-Man came out. That was really cool. Eternals, I could leave it. That probably should have been a show. But they just introduced so much stuff and so many plot lines that they just left or like glossed over. I was just like, man, make it a show. You've proven you could.
Yeah.
So
I haven't seen it yet.
It's okay. It's going to be on Disney Plus, so you'll be fine watching it there. But just
I know it's one of the more divisive MCU entries.
Yeah, and what I'm really interested in is I know, like, so they could go 2 routes. They could go the route of they have a plan, just like they did with the first phases. Like they knew they were going to go to Thanos. So are they going to do that again? Cool. Let's see how that works, because right now it seems very disparate. Or the other option is just not to have a big thread throughout them. Just do crazy movies and be fine. And in that case, then Eternals would sort of work, but I don't know. It felt very I don't know. They needed some working. Somebody needed to edit just a little bit.
All I know is we need way more Haley Steinfeld. She was an absolute fucking phenom in the Hawkeye series, and
yes,
probably one of the most enjoyable new characters to be introduced to the MCU. I think if they just put her in everything from this point forward, make her the centerpiece, we're good. Make her like the new Tony Stark. She's got that kind of charisma that she was a fucking joy to watch every week in that show.
Yeah, she was super awesome. The one thing I'm bummed about in all these shows, and they kind of touch on it every once in a while, but like the fact that like a lot of these characters, and I mean even the world in general, went through this massive like war and like extinction event. Like I wanted, and maybe this wouldn't be fun for kids, but it would be cool to watch like the whole like, how do you deal with that? Like, it seems like they just jumped right back into all this action and be like, no, I feel like people would crack and be like completely off their rocker, realizing like aliens came and they almost killed us all. And we lost all these people for 5 years and then they came back. But every show, I mean, like you see it a little bit in WandaVision. She's dealing with her own stuff. And Winter Soldier, Falcon, you're kind of seeing that. But for the most part, the rest of the world seems pretty like okay with everything happening. And I would like to see a little bit more of like a depressing, like the world just almost ended kind of thing.
I know they did like the therapy session in Endgame. I really would have liked to have that teased out a bit more.
Yeah.
Look at some larger ramifications. And I really wish they would have done like a Secret Avengers somewhere between Infinity War and Endgame, or between Civil War and Infinity War, because you had like the Steve Rogers and his group all off in hiding. They could have done like a neat covert ops kind of thing. Yeah,
that would have been cool. But who knows? Maybe they'll have a good plan. But what I will say, one of the highlights of this year was Psycho Goreman. I think that was a super awesome movie that came out this year and like perfect like escapism, bonkers, off the wall craziness. And I know they're making a sequel, which I'm very excited about, but it was watching it was perfect craziness, and I'm glad that came out, and I want to see more wacky, goopy, costumed action movies like that.
Please.
Yes, we need more of this. So
that was a blast.
Yes, that was so much fun. I thought it was great, and it was just perfect.
I was a big fan of that one too. Like the song at the end and everything.
Yeah, it's just ideal.
That was great. Not the punky boys.
Yeah, I mean that's perfect. How can you not enjoy that?
Villame,
what about you?
I'm basically in the same level as you guys. I've been watching a lot more TV than movies lately. So, I've been watching WandaVision and Loki, and I definitely recommend that people should check out WandaVision. That's, in my opinion, the best of the MCU series that they put out so far.
Yes. I haven't seen Hawkeye yet, just because I've been kind of burnt out on Marvel. But WandaVision was like phenomenal.
It was so good.
Yeah, that and Loki. I think those two were probably the best.
Loki was a lot of fun. When Loki met like the alternate Lokis was hilarious.
It really, it was. What else? I still haven't seen Spider-Man No Way Home, and I'm definitely intent on seeing it as soon as everything goes relatively more normal than it is right now. Yeah. At least more safe to do.
Yeah.
But one movie that still kind of stuck out with me is, I really love Dune. It was kind of like a good sci-fi fantastical movie, and I hadn't seen it's been such a really long time since I'd seen the original movie. But The Green Knight still sticks with me.
I want to see that.
I wasn't a big fan of The Green Knight, but a lot of people really dug it. I wish I liked it more.
Yeah, it wasn't the fact that I, found it like it was a masterpiece or anything, but it's just, it's even now, once in a while, it just still pops in my head, and I'm like, oh yeah, that scene was really weird, but
I think The Green Knight, I would recommend people check it out just because it's a very unique movie.
Yeah, and exactly.
I think even if it didn't work with you, it's good to support movies that are different than what we normally get from Hollywood. I will say with The Green Knight, I thought the ending montage was amazing.
Yes.
That whole ending bit blew me away.
It was so good. It was really good. And just Dave Patel is a really good actor. People book him more. He's got the chops.
I also want to give one quick shout out that I think we can all agree with as well for shows is if you haven't checked out Midnight Mass, unfuck that.
Yes, I was just thinking that. I was like, oh, it's funny. No, we haven't mentioned that yet.
I feel like that just has to be a given. Did you see Mike Flanagan's tweet the other day?
Nope.
No.
Someone made a has anyone seen the comedy show I Think You Should Leave?
Nope.
No.
Someone made a joke picture of I Think You Should Leave skit, and it was The Haunting of Skeleton Town. And they cast actors from The Haunting of Bly Manor in roles of The Haunting of Skeleton Town. And then Flanagan wrote a fake script because he's a really big fan of I Think You Should Leave.
That's amazing.
It was a picture of a fake script he was working on. It was really funny.
I'm really excited about the next project. I think it's going to do the fall of House of Usher.
Well, his next project is actually going to be what's his face? A Christopher Pike adaptation.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
The Pike show, he's doing the House of Usher one.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
I know.
Well, are we sure? Because I know they've announced the cast for the House of Usher. I haven't heard fuck all about the Pike adaptation.
Yeah, I thought I heard something about the
I'm well aware that Pike adaptation was going to be first.
Oh.
Maybe they're just keeping it.
Find out, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's how these things work. You never know until you do know.
Yeah, that's Hollywood. That's how Hollywood works. We announce a whole bunch of shit, and then we never make it.
Exactly.
Yep.
There are a couple books that I really want to shout out for our audience, though, and I recommend our audience checks them out. My favorite book of last year is going to be no surprise. Any guesses?
No.
Friday Night Massacre by Michael Patrick Hicks. Full on
I'm sorry, Mike.
Back
That's
an
actually
audiobook.
my least favorite book of the year. My apologies. I'm joking. Although, Friday Night Massacre, I did nominate it for a Splatterpunk award, and I really did have a lot of fun with it.
You're probably the only one who will vote for that damn thing.
Wait, I know what your favorite book was, The Ceremonies.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Wet work.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to guess B.R. Yeager's.
Oh, good point.
You're close, actually. B.R. Yeager's my second favorite.
Okay, what was number one?
House on Needless Street. Last House on Needless Street.
Talking Cat.
Right, yeah, the Talking Cat. Yeah.
That was that book. I still think about that book to this day. It's honestly, if you can get past the Talking Cat, and I don't want to these books. I don't want to get into spoilers. I really don't. But all I'll say is in House on Needless Street, and this addresses a Talking Cat. It's not what you think it is.
I feel like we're probably the only ones that bash on it. It feels like everyone else in the world loves that.
No,
book,
it's
I
honestly,
know.
it's a really wonderful book. By the time it ended, it made me cry. It's the only book this year that made me cry.
I need to read it. I have a NetGalley copy of it. And the only thing that's stopping me is the knowledge that there's a cat that talks.
I'm going to message the
and
group.
you get
right now.
animal point of view.
I'm going to message the group right now.
Dean Koontz has fucking ruined me on animals in fiction for fucking ever.
Mike, I'm going to message the group right now. This is going to be a spoiler. I don't want to put it in the podcast because I think it works best as a surprise. But it's going to be in a group message.
Okay.
So take it as you will.
Sure.
I've already listened to the audiobook, so yeah, I know what it's going to be about. But yeah, you're probably the only one in this group that liked it, because I was like, it's okay. It's not unforgettable in my opinion.
Okay, well, I just saw your spoiler. I don't know if that makes it better or worse.
It's pretty funny. Everyone else probably is like, this is a great book. I love it. And we're
honestly, what bothers me is when I'm something made me cry. I'm really emotionally attached to this book. And Mike's like, yeah, fuck that book.
Well, I'm not doing it to denigrate you. I'm just saying why I haven't read it yet.
He's like, honestly, screw your emotions.
The book really moved me to tears. And I think
I'm a heartless bastard. So that's
it's worth checking out. My second favorite book of the year is B.R. Yeager's The Book That We Did.
Yes.
That book.
Is that the
negative
title?
Space? Negative space.
Negative space.
Negative space.
I do like that title, though. The Book That We Did.
Yeah, the book that we did. That book really also blew me away. I remember buying it and just reading the first 2 chapters. I was like, guys, we got to do an episode on this book.
What's crazy is I'm looking through the reading, and that was a year ago. God,
yeah,
I know.
We're
talking about 2021.
Yeah,
I know, but for some reason, I felt like we just read it, and then I look, and I'm like, no, that was in February.
I know.
Honestly, to me, Last House on Needless Street was an unforgettable read, and this book's also an unforgettable read for me. I still think about scenes in that book to this day, and I really am curious to see what B.R. Yeager has in the future, because that book floored me, and I still need to read his other book, but I'm very excited for whatever he has planned in the future, because that book was just one fucking journey. And my last, actually, is a book I didn't talk about on this podcast because I finished reading it while we were on break. But it is Master of Rods and Strings by Jason Mark Harris. Has anyone heard of this one?
No.
It's really good. Earlier this year.
It's not about fishing, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's
all about fishing.
Sounds like it might be a fishing
It's about
book.
ventriloquism, actually.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm in. Give me some Paget goodness.
It's a bit more Lagaudian than full-on Paget goodness.
All right.
And Lagaudy actually blurbed it too. So you got a good Lagaudy recommendation out of this.
Cool.
Nice.
Well, the book takes place in France, and it's about this kid who is obsessed with his Uncle Pavan and puppetry and ventriloquism and mannequins, technically. Like, he wants to do, like, string puppetry and stuff. And because, it's a Lagodian-type story, the art of puppetry is actually an art of talking to the dead and talking to spirits and talking to things that are otherworldly than us. And our main character, he becomes very upset that his Uncle Pavan has chosen his sister to be his protege and not himself. So he begins to act out in a series of rage that leads to him wanting revenge against his uncle. And as he is going through learning about puppetry, he stumbles across the art of occult puppetry, bringing back the dead into life, controlling others with your own rods and strings, and using the powers that he's gaining throughout the story to take revenge against his Uncle Pavan.
Huh.
Now cut open your arm and peel away the flesh. See all the strings they use to control you.
It is a wonderful debut, and like I was blown away. This is the debut. Like,
wow.
It's his debut novella, and it is a 5 out of 5. Highly recommend.
Who put this out? Is it indie? Is it small press?
I think it's self-published.
Okay.
Wow.
I haven't done enough research, but it was put up by Vernacular Books. I think that might be Jason Mark Harris's publishing house, but don't quote me on that because I don't want to, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
But that being said, for a debut, it is very, very strong, and it just hits all the right puppet notes for me. Like, there's one part in the book where he teams up with somebody and he finds out that person was used by his Uncle Pavan, so he stops trusting that person. And in a fit of rage, he starts making his puppet dance, and next thing he knows, this energy shoots out of his puppet and into the person, and he actually realized he made his puppet do what he calls the dance of disease. And the energy that hit the other person has made them super, super ill. And he's given them some sort of disease just from this dance he had his puppet do.
Oh, that's crazy.
That kind of leads him down this idea of the different dances you can make puppets do to control different elements of the world around you and stuff like that.
I'm going to have to look this up.
Yep.
So those are my 3 recommendations of the year.
And you said Padgett does the audiobook?
No, I don't think there is an audiobook. Gotti blurbed it.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood what was going on there.
Gotti gave it a blurb. I don't think there is an audiobook. I can check real quick.
Nah, don't worry about it. I can find that out later.
Looks like it came out in July.
Okay.
This past year. I'm looking it up because I kind of want to read this.
Yeah.
It is, I think, especially Matt will like it a lot. But yeah, Thomas Gotti says, Jason Mark Harris's Master of Rods and Strings is a masterful work, the likes of which I have not read in many years. In captivating and expert prose, Master of Rods and Strings brings to life a world where the enchantment of puppetry inexorably descends into magical perdition.
That sounds amazing. So, and it looks like Vernacular Books is a thing. So I don't know if it's just his because it looks like they have a number of books.
Okay, perfect. So it is like an indie publisher then.
Okay, cool.
And there is no audiobook. It's just in paperback or Kindle.
Nice.
So
that sounds awesome.
Checking out that one.
On board.
But what about you, Mike?
Well, I am going to start off with probably my most despicable character of the year. Came from T.C. Parker and our friend Ward Nerdlow, a.k.a. Edward Lorne, and their co-written novel Maiden.
Okay.
The character of Nash is probably the most repugnant fucking people I've read about the whole year. As soon as he's introduced, I just spent the whole book waiting for him to get brutally murdered. Every time you get in his head or he speaks, I'm just like, would you just die already? And he becomes the central antagonist of this book. And he's fucking awful. I don't know if Lorne or Parker is to blame for how terrible this guy is, but he is just absolutely, he's a real fucking piece of work. And as soon as you spend 200 pages just hoping he will finally die. So kudos to those authors. And the book, other than Nash, is really, really fucking good all on its own. But for me, one of my favorite reads of the year was actually a non-horror novel.
Oh.
And it's coming from the crime genre, from S.A. Cosby with his book Razorblade Tears.
I have it on my Kindle. I need to get to it very soon.
I've heard nothing but great things.
Oh, yeah, and it's well-deserved praise, I think. Cosby got a lot of attention in 2020 for the release of Blacktop Wasteland. Mm-hmm. I read that one. For my money, Razorblade Tears blows it out of the water. It is even better. It's about these two ex-cons, Ike and Buddy Lee. They are the parents of two gay sons who are married to one another. Their sons are married, and one is a journalist, and they end up being murdered. And Ike and Buddy Lee, I think it's Buddy Lee is pretty much fresh out of prison, and they unite together. So you kind of got like this Lethal Weapon buddy cop kind of vibe of sorts, as they set out across, I want to say it's West Virginia, to try and figure out who murdered their children. And it's really gritty. There's some great bits of violence in it, and also a hell of a lot of pointed social commentary on race and sexuality, and some good dark humor. It's kind of like if you took a Shane Black buddy cop comedy and turned it into a novel and skipped out on the comedy.
Oh, awesome.
I have it on my Kindle. I got to get to it very soon.
For me, this was the home run of the year. This was one of the best things I read in 2021. And it was hard for me to kind of figure out what I read. And I have been stuck on COVID time now for so long. It's kind of like, wait, did I read this last week or last year? I don't know. Like, when things came, I kind of feel like I'm in like some sort of weird time loop where everything is all fucked up.
Yeah.
One of the other standouts for me, this is probably going to be controversial given some people's dislike for the author, but The Book of Accidents by Chuck Wendig. I know some people can't stand his Twitter and blog personality. I don't care. I like him. I think he's a really good author.
I got walked over a 5-star review I gave him.
I know you did.
I need to read that book, though. I've heard lots of good things.
Yeah, for me, this one was a nice little throwback. You could really feel the Stephen King and Robert McCammon influences, but also a little bit of like classic period era Dean Koontz, like the early 80s and 90s before Koontz became an unrepentant dog worshiper and kind of made like a religion out of golden retrievers, which I still don't understand. But that's not to the point of The Book of Accidents, which is a really, really good time travel serial killer story of kind of like time travel and parallel dimensions and just all kinds of weird shit growing around and magic.
Wait, time travel story, dude?
I kind of think there was some time travel.
I am I'm putting it closer to the top of my TBR right now because that just sold me.
Time travel might be unfair. It is definitely like parallel dimensions kind of thing. I want to think there's like little elements of time travel, but again, COVID time.
Yeah.
Just be kind of misremembering some shit. But I know when I read it, I loved the fuck out of it, gave it a 5-star review. And I know for sure it was very much an influence by Robert McCammon kind of story. That's it for me. I don't know. 2021 is one of those weird years that feels like an in-between year where I don't really know what I liked and what I didn't. And looking back at my Goodreads, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, that was fine, I guess. It was a good book. And then I look at other things, I'm like, I don't even remember reading this.
I do want to give before we move on to Matt, I do want to give two of my favorite episodes to record of this year.
Yeah.
That was the Steve Stred and Dave Sodergren episode.
Oh, yeah.
That was a wonderful book to read, and I highly recommend if our listeners haven't checked it out, they need to.
Yes, that was 2021. Okay, so yeah, the Navajo Nightmare was also good.
And also Wicked Rex of the West, and talking to Ed Warren or Warren Nerdlow and Darren
Kapoff.
And that was also a wonderful read, and highly recommend our audience checks those out too. Or that out too.
Yeah, the Darren and Edward/Ward was our last episode of 2021. The book that we were discussing in there, The Wicked Rex of the West, comes out soon.
Yeah.
Within days of this episode's release. So you'll be able to pre-order it now on Amazon. Check out our spoiler-free podcast episode about that book and go get a copy.
And Matt, what about you?
So this is tricky because I'm like trying to remember stuff I read that came out last year.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's like I'm looking and I went all over the place. Because like one thing I was thinking of, and this might count. Definitely 2021 seemed like the year of the anthology and the short story collection. I read a lot of those, and some that came out last year and some that didn't, that I really enjoyed. Mike Sisko's Anti-Societies came out last year, and I absolutely adored that. As has been apparent this episode, but in past, we like a little bit more weirder stuff, or at least some of us like the weirder stuff, and Anti-Societies fits right up there in that bill. That came out from Grimscribe. I'm trying to remember what I read that came out, because that was a good one. Haley Piper's oh my goodness, I'm looking through my list. Unfortunate Elements of My Anatomy. Can't remember if that actually came out last year. I think it came. Okay, that was on my list. That was a really good one. A couple of collections or anthologies beyond the Book of Ebon. That was an awesome kind of oh my gosh, I'm going to draw a blank. That was another weird one based on some giallo horror stuff in that kind of realm. Jonathan Rabb's The Secret Goat Man Spook Show and Other Psychological Warfare Operations. Just probably my favorite collection of the year. Yeah, I mean, I love everything that he puts out, and that one just is totally captures his crazy style. So yeah, a lot of collections, a lot of anthologies, awesome stuff. And it's great to see, on Twitter and all the news, more and more of these are coming out. And I think that's great. Kind of give a taste of everything that people can do. The other thing I really dug were some great novellas. Man, Fuck This House was brilliant. Brian Assman, house that basically comes to life and is haunted. Just a ton of fun. Jurassic Christ was another great one about Jesus going back in time and going a little too far back in time and having to fight dinosaurs / befriend dinosaurs. And time travels via crucifying himself. You can't go wrong with that. So yeah, those are some of the big ones that I remember that actually came out last year that I enjoyed. There's some that I discovered. If we stick in the mystery train, August Snow books by Stephen Mack Jones, just the best. Detroit detective, ex-cop, just a great love of Michigan and Detroit, and also condemnation of the way things happen in Detroit. Great social commentary on race. His second book, a lot on immigration and what that does to the world.
I have Snow waiting for me in the library, so I'm going to be reading that very soon.
You totally should. It's great. I think he's Dead of Winter came out this year, and that's the third book. And then I think he's got one more. They are, after some Google searching, I think this is going to be a show with Keegan-Michael Key playing August Snow. So that should be really awesome because there is some humor in it, while at the same time it's a gritty detective story that doesn't pull any punches. So that was my great discovery of the year.
I do want to say you sold me on those books, Matt.
Yes.
But what pushed me to fully borrow them from the library was this review of the second book on Goodreads. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
And I quote, Detroit was built and large by native black slaves. Page 15. What? So you're a victim and the world owes you? Shut up. I was interested in reading his anti-American rhetoric. Lady Liberty, Akbar, my earliest DNF.
I saw that review and I was like, what the hell?
And who says negative reviews don't sell books?
Oh my lord, that is hilarious. So yeah,
the best thing you can do is piss off a reader enough that they go to excoriate you on social media. It's fucking brilliant.
So that review made me go to the Boston Public Library website and put the book on hold.
How dare you, a black author, talk about slavery and offend my white sensibilities?
Oh my god, people. So, yeah.
I think this is a healthy time to say, fuck that reader. Go pick up some August Snow books.
His name is Aristotle, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure Aristotle would really approve.
And another reviewer named Carl said, terrible. Too much politically correct identity politics. Is filled with the bad, stupid, no sympathy or empathy, beastly drones of ICE pursuing the people in the country illegally, but otherwise fine, upstanding citizens, productively employed that should not be bothered about the little matter of legal immigration. If they are in our country, they should be welcomed and protected, 3 exclamation points. Just too much far-left compassion without regard for the consequences and unforeseen complications of that policy. If the author wants to be a publicist for the far-left politically correct movement, I think he should be upfront and try to disguise the propaganda as a novel. Maybe go reverse further into this propaganda and turn to a reasonable work of fiction, but I couldn't keep going to find out.
Tell me you're a white Republican reader without telling me you're a white Republican reader.
Yep.
Right. And what's funny is, and I don't have the book directly in front of me, but I'm pretty positive for the second book, the back cover talks about how ICE is like detaining people illegally and doing all these terrible things. And it's like, it's very clear he's telling you what this book is going to be about. So it's so funny when people read it and are shocked that he's sharing his opinion.
Yeah.
But
gosh, it's almost like ICE was actually illegally detaining people in concentration camps and
crazy
snatching up people just because they could. Crazy. How dare you? They write a book about that? The gall, the unmitigated gall.
And Vitlame, what about you?
Well, I did a similar thing on my YouTube channel where I didn't do like a top 10. I just did like the best reads that I read in 2021. So it might not have been like old books that were, released in 2021. But I really recommend that people should check out the Haley Piper's The Unfortunate Elements of My Anatomy. Yeah, it is a really great short story collection. Has one of the best short stories that I've ever read in it and that we covered on the podcast.
Yeah, I love the story.
So good. I also want to recommend Damascus Mensmeyer's Where the Last Light Dies, his debut short story collection, because we discussed one of his stories as well on the podcast. And I really, really like his stories. He has like a unique talent with atmosphere and dialogue. That I really, really enjoy.
That was fun. That was a fun read when we did that one.
Yeah. What else would I also recommend? You mentioned, Rich, that the Last House on Needless Street had brought you to tears. There was one book that brought me to tears last year, and that was The Butterfly Garden by Dodd.
That's a really heavy book.
It really is. You can just imagine me, when I was doing the review on YouTube and just, trying to say what it was about, and I broke out in tears.
I saw this video. It's a really heavy book. I tried reading it with an ex-girlfriend of mine back when we were dating, and that didn't go too well. It was her idea to read it, not mine. It didn't go too well.
Oof. Yeah, it's a really heavy book, and, if you, it definitely should have like a content warning because it does have it in like at the back of the book. You know, when you read the blurb, you know what you're gonna be in for, but as you read the book, you didn't know how heavy it was gonna be.
It's definitely, if you have triggers, especially pretty much if you have triggers, that book is gonna set off at least one of your triggers.
Yes.
And it's going to be a very uncomfortable journey, but it's also a very like rewarding journey too.
Yeah.
And I think like by the end of it, it comes beautifully. Like I think the ending of the book like works really well. And I haven't read the sequels, but I probably should eventually.
Yeah, I haven't read the sequels either, so I probably should as well.
But no, I thought it was a great book. It's just very heavy. Like after you're done with it, you just want to kind of like cuddle your dog or cat or like stuffed animal. And just like everything's okay now.
Yeah, that's basically what I did, and I also put like I think Futurama on replay. Like I kept it on loop. It's like I need my comfort shows. It's either Futurama or Bob's Burgers for me.
There you go.
I love Bob's Burgers.
But what else would I also recommend? I also listened to, and that was also something that I probably shouldn't have done. I listened to the audio version of Christopher Triana's Gone to See the Riverman.
Oh, that's a really heavy one too.
Yeah, so heavy. And especially when you're listening to it and the way the narrator, you know, she changed her voice when she was doing the disabled sister's voice.
Yeah.
And as the further you go into the story and the more she uses that voice, you're like, please stop. Please, no more. Stop it. Stop. But it was also a really good one. I mean, I keep saying like this story almost wrecked me, and then I look at people, but you should read it. So
I need to read more Triana. Everything I've read by Triana, I've really liked.
Yeah, he's really good. So I definitely need to check out more of his stuff. And
Full Brutal, but Full Brutal is also a very heavy read.
Yes. And I probably might get a little bit of like a backlash from this, but this last year was the first time I had actually read a story by Stephen Graham Jones, which was Mapping the Interior.
Yes,
that's a great story.
And it's and I feel like it's a great introduction to his work.
Yes.
And because, it's short, but you definitely get a visual of his style and what he's going to, be talking about. And it will definitely leave you wanting to read more of his stuff.
Yeah.
After I finished reading Mapping the Interior, I was like, okay, so I need to call my nerd shop and ask them to order all the books.
I want to cover more Stephen Graham Jones this year in our podcast.
I agree. We can take Night of the Mannequins or Mongrels.
Either of those.
I haven't read Mongrels yet. I'm down for that one.
Yeah.
All right.
I want to spend this year and focus more on authors of color, women authors, trans authors. I want to focus a lot more on those authors this year too.
Yeah.
So we just want to piss off white Republican listeners.
Yeah. Which is kind of funny because like the first two guests I have booked are white guys.
Yeah. We have young white Republicans.
We need to balance things out before we dive into the deep end.
I'm looking to get more diverse voices on the podcast and read more diverse stories. That being said, our next episode is not going to be a very diverse author. So I just want to put something forth for our audience. When we first started Abyss, it was just me. It was me, Mike, and Matt, and it was around the time Valancourt was releasing Paperbacks from Hell, and we thought it would be a really great idea to read The Nest. And, that episode is now gone, and the episode never came out. We had a big computer issue that we lost our first 10 episodes, I believe.
Something like that, yeah.
Which, it sucked, but I feel getting those episodes out was good practice for us.
Yeah, those were our training wheels, period, because we had no fucking clue what we were doing, which is part of the reason we lost those handful of episodes.
So I feel like that was in the end it's a blessing in disguise, but we feel will be fun for our next episode, being our 100th episode, is a revisit to The Nest. This is an infamous 80s horror novel that is everything good and bad about 80s horror novels in one novel. I think that's the best way to put it.
That is accurate. I started rereading it this morning.
Yeah,
Did you?
I haven't read it yet, and I'm both intrigued and a little bit terrified.
It's so wacky.
It's hilarious. It's like, we'll get more into it. I still have my notebook of notes from that book too.
Back when we used to take notes.
Yeah, I want to get back into taking notes again, actually.
That's how green we were. We prepared.
Right. Who needs that?
But that being said, like, the book, at the end of the day, it's a really fun, shitty B movie written in a book form.
Yes.
And it makes it funnier because the guy writes it as like he's writing a literary novel.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
About cockroaches eating people.
Oh my god.
There's something really funny about that. The fact, like, it's like flowery literary prose with a guy fucking a pile of leaves while a cockroach eats him.
Yeah, this guy goes all in.
All in.
All in. And that's just a tip of the iceberg. Like, that's not even the craziest part of this book.
Oh my gosh, this book.
So
It's going to be an adventure.
Next week will be a really fun conversation.
I am excited.
Is nice.
So, King of the Castle. I think it's going to be a really fun book to revisit and discuss next week.
Yeah.
I'm also looking forward to Paperbacks from Hell releasing a lost Carl Edward Wagner collection.
Yes.
And I would really like I said, I want to focus on diverse voices, but I really do want to cover that Carl Edward Wagner collection.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
absolutely. Six was fucking phenomenal. We did 2 stories of Carl Edward Wagner previously, and both of them were fantastic. Ever since then, that was my introduction to him, and I have been waiting and hoping that some publisher somewhere out there would bring his out-of-print work back. And Valancourt is finally doing it with one of their collections.
So I'm very excited about that.
Very much.
But
they're also releasing Carnosaurus.
Yes. I do want to focus on other, like, minority authors as well. So I want us to have a nice, like, diverse reading for this year.
I think that's a laudable goal.
I think we can accomplish it. And I want to try to get more diverse guests, which I also think we can accomplish. And I think this year will be a really good year for the podcast and for the listeners.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And
we'll see what we can do.
Matt and I also have a little announcement to make, too.
Oh.
Where Matt and I have teamed up with another author, A.K. Dennis, and we are launching a podcast soon this year called Nacho Dad's Movies. We're going to be revisiting 80s and 90s action flicks.
Yes.
And other types of movies as well, but primarily 80s and 90s action movies.
It's gonna be magical.
Awesome.
And that'll be about a once-a-month release, and I think that'll be a lot of fun as well. So
I will look forward to not editing that one.
Like, you'll be safe. But hopefully our Abyss listeners tune into that one as well.
Yeah.
And that'll be a lot of fun.
Should be
next
fun.
week. I'm
sure you're guaranteed at least 3 listeners.
At least. I'm looking forward to discussing The Nest next week with everybody. And I hope everyone here enjoys the rest of their day. And you have a great week ahead of you. Hopefully 2022 is a much better year than the shithole that was the last 2 years we went through.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll find out when we find out.
This week I get to go back to work and maybe catch the Omna Delta Krana variant.
Yay!
Yay! And Mike, where can listeners get in touch with you?
You can find me on Twitter at MikeH5856, or you can head up to my website at michaelpatrickhicks.com. Follow the links and buy some books. My latest release is Friday Night Massacre.
Oh yeah, and Friday Night Massacre, by the way, is probably the only 2 books this year made me gag to the point where I had to put the book down.
Nice.
Friday Night Massacre was one of those books.
Awesome.
The other one was Suburban Gothic by Brian Keene and Brian Smith.
Making people gag is really the only thing I have going for me at this point.
P-tape, ooh, that was rough.
Not just a P-tape, my friend.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil the rest of it. That's what's in your version of the P-tape.
Yes. Matt, what about you?
I am on Twitter at BrandonbergDM.
And Vitlame, what about you?
They can find me on Twitter at VitlameS, and I'm also on BookTube at Fanked Pipsqueak Reads.
Perfect. And you can follow me on Twitter at Reedy53088, as well as make sure to give our podcast a follow on Twitter at Into Staring. And this is Richard Gerlach saying keep staring.